Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Designated Podcast. This is episode 7. Today is June 6th, 2020. Today I am joined by Jacob.
What's up, guys?
As well as Joss.
What up?
And once again, Jack is nowhere to be seen. Rest in peace.
Let's go.
He's in his bag, bro. He's in
Let's
his bag.
go.
No Jack slander, bro. Not
Bro,
today.
I'm here for this, bro.
No
I'm so
Jack
excited.
slander, bro. Not today, bro.
Jack
He's in his bag right now.
Jack is not going to be having this in the group chat later this week. But anyways,
I'm telling Jack what you said.
yeah.
Good, bro.
So last week
Meet me outside.
Last week we did take a week off. There's just a lot going on in the world right now. Of course, we all know that the biggest thing happening right now is the protests around the country, and we wanted to take a week off just so, you guys could focus on that, and so we could also focus on that so we don't feel overwhelmed. But yeah, we just wanted to take a week off and just focus on what really mattered. The protests are a very big part of our lives right now. But yeah, we are back this week, and we have a pretty good amount of things to talk about. And, just a tiny little thing was announced this week that maybe the league that this podcast is possibly based around is coming back later this month.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Oh, God.
we're finally
Rip
gonna be able to
headphone
talk,
users.
We're gonna be able to talk MLS, new MLS. This is crazy.
Yeah, this is crazy. But with that came something, I guess I would call it disturbing or eye-opening, one of the two, with the MLS PA. I don't understand the full coverage of it, so Joss, I'm pretty sure you know a good amount of what's going on with the MLS PA, though, right?
I know a decent amount, I think.
All right, you can take it away if you'd like with the MLS PA.
Yeah.
stuff.
So the MLSPA, for our listeners who don't know, stands for Major League Soccer Player Agreement, and basically, what that is it gives players. It's like a union for the players. It's a player, like the players in MLS all have unions to make sure that they get the adequate amount of pay that they deserve, and other things like that, other benefits to make sure that they're working, but they're still getting it's fair treatment almost. So this week the MLSPA was ratified, which basically said that MLS players would be getting a certain amount of money, which we'll talk about, a certain amount of money up until 2025, I think.
It is
when
2025.
Is when it expires, yeah. So up until the 2025 season, as well as other benefits and other, actually not really that many benefits. It's been more cuts due to COVID. Now, with the MLSPA this time around, it's been very questionable the way that MLS has done it, because there was another PA that was ratified last year, and everyone had agreed on it, but thanks to the pandemic, the players had to now enter a new round of negotiations because MLS just couldn't afford, I'm putting that in air quotes, they couldn't afford, they probably could, but they couldn't afford the agreements that had been originally discussed. So I'm reading this ESPN article right now, and it said that the total amount of economic concessions is over $100 million, which that's a hefty amount, I think.
Yeah.
Well, especially for MLS, yes.
Yeah. That's a lot of money in a league like MLS. It's across the board, salaries have been cut around 7.5%, which is kind of startling. As well as individual bonuses for players are capped at $5 million for the season. So clubs can only pay $5 million in bonuses to players based on their performances and things like that, and how they do in the season. So if the best striker in MLS history, Connor Hallisey, were to get 30 goals, he would only be able to be paid at most $5 million for those 30 goals.
Yeah.
Now, bonuses, I think, are a big part of leagues, especially nowadays, because it's extra incentive, and it shows it'll help motivate the players even more. So I think that's pretty big for them. So the new MLSPA will kick in. I think it's gonna kick in for the payroll period on May 31st. Now the last MLSPA, the last player agreement, allowed like it only covered the 2 games ish that were actually played. So that's why that's one of the reasons that players are kind of mad. But another reason that they're kind of angry at the new player agreement is that MLS actually threatened a lockout to these players if they don't agree to the terms that have been presented.
Right. So
That's a
it's
little
no
messy.
longer it's no longer a negotiation at that point. It's sticking a gun to somebody's head and saying, okay, well, you can either accept this or not, but look what's going to happen if you don't.
You can accept this or you can't get paid, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I think that a bit like this is huge for MLS because players only make around 100,000. You know, that's like the average in MLS. A lot of them make a lot less than that. So, you know, to kind of cut back on the wages that much, that's surprising. That's a surprising amount of money.
Mhm.
So again, I think that like I'm glad to see MLS coming back and everything, but the way that they've gone about it is just kind of infuriating because they've treated the players not like humans. They haven't given them that humanity that they deserve as humans. They've given them like they're just names, you know. There's no human connection to these names.
Right.
No,
So I can understand the anger behind it.
another thing that I think is really important about this is going back to a couple of weeks ago. A lot of these players have been using their salaries and what they've been getting paid to help fund some of the club's members and some of the club's workers. And so, I mean, as a player right now, I'd be infuriated if I'm having to pay the wages of the people, of the workers for these organizations, and now I'm told that I'm going to be paid 7.5% less. Come on, like who wants to do that? And one of the big and one of the big things that MLS had going for it in the past was, players would come over here and they'd come over from Europe and they'd tell all their friends back at their former clubs, like, oh, look at the MLS, it's actually really good. I'm enjoying my time here, which attracted
The MLS.
but it
This episode's just
it
going to be
attracted-
titled Headphone Warning.
but but essentially, if you're looking at this from a player's perspective in Europe, why would you want to come to MLS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just
I
shows
see
how
that.
powerless they are when it like MLS isn't afraid to pull out these dirty tactics. And what are they going to do? I mean, obviously they can go on strike, but then they don't get paid
Yeah, and it's
because it's a whole new agreement.
It's
Yeah.
a stark comparison to, and I might be wrong on this. I might have read up incorrectly about it, but am I correct in saying that the Premier League said that all pay cuts are voluntary, right? Because Mesut Ozil was one of them that rejected a pay cut.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Well, we know the reason. He donates a lot of his salary to charity, so I think, him taking a pay cut was pretty reasonable, or not taking a pay cut is reasonable. But anyways, it's a stark contrast to that, and it really shows just the goals of soccer in these two countries. In the MLS and in U.S. soccer in general, we see soccer in
The MLS.
Anyways, we see it as a business, and that's whatever. That's the American way. See everything as a business. It'll work out in the end. Whatever. Who cares? But in the Premier League, and I forgot, a big player in MLS said it, and it might have been Zlatan, but I don't want to say it was Zlatan because I'm not sure it was Zlatan. But he said that in Europe, only like a good few clubs actually end up making a profit at the end of the year, which it's an interesting statement, I think, because it really shows the finances that go into running a successful club. It really shows it shows that this industry, I guess is what you call it, of entertainment is not always a for sure profit, and is definitely not something that you should bet on being a profit. It is not for profit. It is for the fans. It's for the players. It's for whoever.
Yeah.
But with MLS, we're seeing a startling trend of just clubs seeming like they don't see it that way. of course, we talked about it. I believe it was 2 weeks ago at this point. Oh my gosh, I always say his name wrong. Onweha, the RSL center back.
Native Manuaha.
Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness, that was not even close. Anyways, Anuaha, of course, had to pay the staff's wages, which is insane. Like, to even think about. That should not be his responsibility. That is the club's responsibility to pay to pay the staff first, and then worry about the repercussions later.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really interesting to see that comparison between the Premier League and MLS and the ways that they're handling this global pandemic.
Now, let's be clear, though, if you're here for a minute. To be fair, MLS makes a high percentage of its money off of fans coming to games. They do not have the same
TV
agreements
fair.
that the Premier
That's
League
fair.
does.
That's extremely fair.
Right. Again, I think this goes back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago, which is there has to be at some point some level of transparency. And I'm sure the players probably felt this too, of why are these cuts happening? Because personally, we see that they're happening, but we don't understand as fans.
Right, and I think that goes to show, again, just the difference that happens between the Premier League and the MLS, which, of course, the way that just employment and workers' unions in general, the way that works is different in here in the U.S. than it is in England, of course. So obviously the MLSPA is going to be different than, Premier League. Do they even have a PA? I don't think they do. What is like the Premier League's equivalent of a player association, or do they even have one? I don't think they would even have one. Anyways,
let me see.
I have no idea.
I honestly don't think.
I just want to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think a lot of the anger just comes the amount of cuts that were, because it was a big result to get this first MLSPA agreed upon.
Yeah,
it was huge for the players. It gave them gains in free agency, bonuses for lower wage players. There were huge increases in the United States, which was a big plus and was going to lead to more money. So I just think seeing that fall from like we've got what we wanted to just it all being taken away with no fault of the players. That's where the anger kind of is, because it feels at the end of the day MLS is a business.
Yeah.
And it's a business that's looking to make profit every time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's a shame that the way that they're making profit is by taking advantage of the players.
Right. And it really does kind of shine a light, or I guess just in general, the pandemic has shown a light on just like the way businesses are run in the US. I mean, we've really seen like this trend of just like billionaire like business owners that make huge profits every year. Oh my goodness. Make huge profits every year, just sort of say like, yeah, we can't pay you guys. And it's like, okay. But
so I've got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Because money is going to have to be cut somewhere, because money is finite within these clubs, especially in MLS, because these teams don't make much. Would you guys say that players should be taking cuts, or should the workers be taking cuts, or should it be a combination of both? Because money.
It's difficult.
Really difficult. That's a difficult question.
I want to say players to a certain extent, because we do have players that are earning a very big sum of money every year, from sponsorships or just from, of course, their wages with the club in general. I think it should be more of just a system of, if you earn like a lower wage, then you should be giving a lower percentage of your salary, I guess, if that makes any sense. But of course, it's
no, 100%, totally agree.
I think that's the only fair way to do it at this point, because if you have a player like, say, Zlatan, who's earning millions upon millions a year because he's such a big name just in sports in general, if you have a player like him who's giving the same percentage of his salary as a player like, again, say like Connor Hallisey, who's not earning like even 100,000
He's not even in
a year.
MLS anymore.
I know neither of them are, but
but yeah, I see what you mean.
yeah. But I'm trying to think of a better player, or like Gianluca Busio, or like one of the young kids who's not earning as much. I think you start to have a bit of a problem there because, again, players need to pay their bills, and regardless of what you say about the millionaire players, odds are they could probably live without a little bit more money than, say, or a little bit more percentage of their salary than one of like the academy kids who has to help pay his parents' bills or whatever. But I don't know. That's a different discussion, I guess. But I think that's
It's just
it's
difficult.
It's difficult to talk about because if we really wanted to get into it, we'd end up getting into just like pay cuts in general in the U.S. and like tax cuts and all that. But you know, we're not here to get political. But yeah, I guess is there anything else from the PA that was really worth discussing besides the pay cut and all that? Should we go ahead and talk about the tournament, I guess? I feel
I think we should.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it.
So a part of the player agreement that was agreed upon, right?
Nice.
Yeah. A part of the agreement that was ratified said that Major League Soccer will host a tournament in Orlando at Walt Disney World's Wide World of Sports complex, which is also where the NBA, I think, will be holding games.
Which means that MLS is officially a Mickey Mouse league.
No.
Facts.
No. No pain. But at the Wide World of Sports complex in Orlando, they will be holding like a summer tournament. I think we've heard two reports that it would be either the end of June or beginning of July is when it starts. But other than that, not many details are very clear right now. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
I thought I heard the main format of the tournament was World Cup style, like groups of 4, each team plays each other once, and then there's the knockout rounds. I think that's what I heard.
Yeah.
I read it was a Blue Testament article. I'm pretty sure that was written interviewing Matt Beasler. I'm pretty sure, and he spilled the beans apparently. But that's my captain right there.
That's my goat. That is my goat.
That is my goat. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm not sure exactly. Oh yeah, the big part of it though that I've been hearing is each team starts out like in their groups with the same amount of points that they had when the season was paused, which is weird for a format like this. I don't understand why you'd do that, and it could be completely false. What I heard is like not set in stone. It could be like a work in progress thing, and they're just like testing the waters with it. But I made this comparison before we started recording. I said if you have a team like Kansas City that was with like 6 points and like positive like 6 goal differential or something like that, and you have them facing off against NYCFC, who I believe have 0 points, I think, right? I can't remember where they left off, but if you have something like that, the likelihood of NYC even getting through at that point is pretty low, and I'm just not quite sure why you do that. I think the only way to do it is just have a regular tournament, like drop all the points from the beginning of the season. Like it was just 2 games, no one's gonna miss those points that much. Like
I'm as a Sporting KC fan, I am going to miss those entire 6 points so much.
I'm willing because it would make the tournament more fun to watch. I think it's just simple like that. Like,
I totally agree.
I wouldn't want to watch a tournament where Sporting gets through purely because they won 2 games like 4 months ago. Like I honestly wouldn't want to watch that. But,
well, this Sports Illustrated article is actually saying that they could also do a qualification format that CONCACAF used in the Nations League, where each team would randomly play against 3 other teams, and then so there aren't any groups. It eliminates the whole group aspect.
I see what you're saying.
So there's no groups, and then the top 16 teams would move on.
Ooh,
that's kind of cool. Like imagine like a drawing, like they do for the Champions League. They draw the
I-
teams.
Would be good with
And-
that.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. And they wouldn't put them into groups, obviously, but they'd put it like Sporting Kansas City will be playing New York City, New York Red Bulls, and RSL. That'd be kind of cool.
Okay, but what happens when somebody draws LAFC,
Atlanta
United, and Minnesota?
Funny.
Tough luck.
Yeah,
Sorry, Cincinnati.
Nashville FC or SC.
Good luck in this baptism of fire,
Hey,
Miami.
praise Joms, yeah, that guy that I still
Yeah,
can't say.
Stam.
Yeah, Yapstam. Yep, I said it
King.
right the first time. Anyways, but yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be hard. Like,
hmm
this,
Especially in
it's
the
Orlando
Florida
in August.
summer. Yeah, in the Orlando
Exactly.
summer in August or June, July, we don't even know when. Either way, either three of those months is still hell. So, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I think more and more I'm looking forward to it. The more, like, when I first heard about it, I was honestly just like, oh, MLS bringing a tournament. And then I thought about it for a couple of days, and I was like, that means Sporting Kansas City soccer is back. And then I got hyped, and I was like, we get to finally see Polito and Kinda ball again. But
Oh man, it's been forever. I feel like
I
I've
miss-
aged 30 years.
I miss Polito and Kinda so much, dude. And we only got to see him for 2 games, dude.
But
Dude,
the games
honestly-
we saw 'em.
If Kinda's Sporting KC career somehow only ended up being these 2 games, dude, the streets would still never forget, bro.
I would never forget that goal against Vancouver. Is unforgettable, dude. Such a banger.
Yeah.
God, I keep thinking about that. I honestly
So,
like yesterday just watched the highlights.
Sorry, did we mention the prize for winning the tournament?
We did not, but I know what that
Okay.
is. Yeah.
So they're reporting that MLS will award the winner of the tournament with a CCL berth, right?
Nothing
CONCACAF
like-
Champions League.
Nothing like throwing away your whole entire next MLS season by winning a tournament.
By starting in February.
Oh God.
I just think if this is allowed, would they have to then take away someone else's qualification?
That was my
no,
question.
because the U.S. Open Cup is a automatic qualifier, which is not happening this year.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Well, then what about the Canadian Cup with Toronto, Montreal,
Yeah.
Vancouver?
Well,
I
they
think
could still play that because that's only like what 8 teams with everybody considered 4 to 8 teams.
Yeah, but if Montreal wins the whole thing, does the runner-up of the Canadian? If Montreal wins the Canadian Cup and the Orlando tournament, does the runner-up then get the CCL berth?
I think it's just.
I think that's fair.
I think
yeah.
yeah, but then you're assuming that it's not like Montreal versus Vancouver, which I doubt it would be at this point. But
Hey, respect him.
I'll respect Vancouver for beating Chicharito. Did they beat? I can't remember. I'm pretty sure they beat him. But
Yeah, they did.
yeah.
But yeah, I didn't
Corona
think
got
about
sent off. Don't forget it.
Oh, he did. If only that happened in the real world.
Facts.
I think that it's a good idea, I think, to begin this sort of testing phase, almost like, where are the fans? How are they feeling right now?
Yeah.
When MLS is back, are we going to have a viable fan base, loyal fan base that have been itching to stay, you know? Because I think that this was going to be another big year for MLS in terms of growth. And it was going to have to be because, if I remember correctly, the broadcasting rights expire in 2022. So they could then go on the market
God.
again and then get more money by just selling off their rights to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
And we wouldn't have to hear Alexi Lawless every
Oh,
time we
thank
wanted to
God,
watch
dude,
the LA
thank
Derby.
God.
Bro, please, I am begging you right
Maybe
now.
we could hear the silky voice of Arlo White.
Oh,
Maybe Peter Drury.
Peter
Maybe
Drury. No,
Peter
no, no.
Drury gets it.
All I'm saying
Ian
is
Drake.
all I'm
please.
saying is
Oh,
MLS
Ian Dar. Oh, please.
MLS
back
on
to
MLS on
2014 World
ESPN on ESPN and NBC reached heights that MLS on Fox could never even hope to reach, bro.
I'm a fan of everything that Taylor Twellman did in his career. As a broadcaster.
No.
I'm
The
looking
only-
at you, Captain America.
The only good thing Twellman's done has been What Are We Doing? That's it. That's the only good thing
That
he's
was
done.
yeah. was it Twellman that did the Zlatan call after he scored that 40-yarder in the LA
I think I hate
Well, like that was all right, but can you just imagine the words that Peter Drury could have crafted out
Oh
of
my
thin air?
god, dude! I'm just saying. I want MLS and the World Cup. I want all soccer to be kicked out of Fox Sports. I hate Fox Sports, honestly. I've
Yeah,
expressed this
bro.
before a lot in the past. I think Fox is a huge downgrade from the possibilities that were ESPN and NBC holding the rights for MLS, and especially the World Cup. I have said the World Cup, even if the U.S. was competing in the World Cup in 2018, I still would not have been as hyped as if I was listening to ESPN calling it.
It's something.
And
Like
it's
is
probably
it Ian
because
Dark?
it's probably because we pretty much were like born and raised on ESPN hosting the World Cup. Like, you know, all those USA games, like Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan and John Brooks's header against Ghana. Those were all on ESPN.
But
Yeah.
let's be very clear here. ESPN has the best intros for the World
100%.
Cup games.
Oh,
They're
Like,
so good.
You remember the Brazil one?
I do
oh
remember
my
the
god.
Brazil one.
I still
Where,
think
where the
about that.
swirls come in and make the logo.
Oh,
Yes.
And it's just there's just like this animation of like Brazil, and it's just like beautiful, and it's like, you get this energy, and before the final or before the first kick, you're watching a game with Fox, man, and you're just like,
I
dude,
loved the
please.
the team presentations that they had for the USA games. Those were awesome. Especially
Oh.
the ones with like Jermaine Jones like knocking out Ghana on the like before we played Portugal or whatever. That was insane,
yeah.
dude.
Well,
I
like the
loved
swirls
that.
come in, you know, and like
And then-
you
and
forget
then he-
that you're about to watch Switzerland versus Ecuador. You feel like you're gonna watch the final.
I know, dude. It's just I feel like Fox lacks any creative drive when it comes to making World Cup games, if that makes any sense. It feels like they're just there to show the game and that's it. But you need to make it an experience. You need to make people want more, not want to like feel bored after watching England lose like 1-0 to Croatia or whatever it was.
Sterling should have scored it, bro.
He should have, man. But yeah, I don't know. I think again that could be our bias because U.S. weren't in the World Cup. But again, I literally woke up at like 7 a.m. to watch. I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure it was like Argentina versus Iceland or something. So I'm not gonna have that because I was still hyped for that World Cup even without the U.S. It's just Fox was not the right presenter for it. But anyways, we got really off track. Where were we?
Well,
Wait, one more
yeah.
thing. Fox Sports for pulling the camera off of fucking Jaden Sancho. Just need to say that.
yeah.
No, honestly, so much. We're gonna get into that later, honestly, because I'm pissed about that in general.
It's devilish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think to wrap things up, I'm excited for MLS to be back. My favorite league. I'm just gonna say it. My favorite league in the world.
Yes, sir.
I think that I love it, bro. Like, I hope that it comes back and we see some Wisconsin striker drafted 3rd round, and he absolutely runs this Orlando tournament.
I am
I
on
hope
my
he-
hands and knees.
I hope that would be the MLS right there. In Orlando.
MLS.
The only thing that'd make it better. Okay, so in Orlando tournament where you get like $1 million and some CC and a CCL berth. Now imagine they give you some targeted allocation money, right? The top scorer is some 3rd round from Wisconsin, okay? And Atlanta goes out 1st round. The MLS.
The MLS.
The MLS. Like the final is played between Nashville. No, the final is played between Orlando and Miami because they're the only two used to the weather.
And
I'm there for
Cincinnati,
that.
Cincinnati finds out some way to get knocked out before the tournament even starts.
dude, don't even bring that to me. Cincinnati making it to the semifinals. Yup, stomp, dude.
That would be the MLS, dude.
500 ball right there. That's your boy.
Anyways,
Gets through on drawing like Portugal 2016, bro.
Yeah, because they said that they would do 3rd place games as well. So we could see games where players are afraid to go forward, which would suck. But
Yeah. Oh man, that would be awful. Man, I'm sorry. Just to go on a quick tangent, I forgot that Giuseppe Rossi played for Real Salt Lake. Man, I forgot he
Imagine
signed for
he's
them.
top scorer.
Oh my god, honestly, that would be the MLS right there.
Apparently, he's having a kid as well. So
That's
good for him.
interesting. Yeah, good for him. Congrats,
Good for him.
Giuseppe.
Will he be Italian or American?
We're gonna find out.
We don't know. We don't know.
Man, I remember when Giuseppe Rossi had like his height. That was a long time ago, actually. At this
Yeah,
point.
for Villarreal, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. Then he got
Yeah,
replaced
but
by
I think
Carlos Baca or whatever. I can't even
my
remember who replaced
king,
him.
bro.
Colombian king.
But yeah,
Anyways,
so
are we gonna talk about BLM next? Probably.
I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah. What we're talking about here, we don't try to make this a political conversation. Like this to me is not political.
I was going to say
me-
this is most certainly not a political thing.
Mhm. For me, it's personal. Like I'm a like partially Hispanic American. I was born that way. I was born in this country. My parents were born in this country, and this subject is touchy, I think, for a lot of us to talk about because we think that racism and racial tension has just gone away in general since like the 1970s onwards, because that's, for most of us, that's what we've been taught in our history classes, is that racism is just like a thing of the past. But I find it hard for people to go on Twitter and just see these videos and still think that. That's just my personal belief. But there has been a lot of stuff that has been associated with just everything going on in the world that has been in MLS, because again, at this point, you saying nothing about this matter and having a platform to say something about it, you being silent is pretty much you just saying I condone what's going on, because you saying nothing is very frankly, it's doing nothing to help the problem that is real for pretty much all of us. But I think a big statement was made this week from the LA Galaxy. It was a huge statement to me. Now, just like a quick rundown of what happened. Alexander Katai, who was signed from the Chicago Fire in the winter transfer window, his wife, is her name just T? T Katai, yeah. Anyways,
Dude, it has to be like TA, right? Like it's
Tia
Tia,
Katai,
maybe.
Tia Katai.
Tia, yeah.
Well, we'll call her Tia Katai. She made a pretty bad post. No, not pretty bad. It was a
I was gonna
horrible
say
post.
yeah.
It was
was
an
awful.
insulting, just absolute.
I'm not gonna
degrading.
quote everything that she said here, but she pretty much promoted violence against protesters because of everything that's happening right now in the U.S. All the protests, and if you want to call them riots, whatever, I disagree, but if that's what makes you more comfortable. Anyways, yeah, she pretty much promoted like killing protesters and just like used some very derogatory terms to describe them. And the Galaxy, they said, we're not having that. So what they did is they just parted ways with Alexander Katai. And Alexander Katai, before anybody says, why would you fire a player over a statement his wife made, Alexander Katai is no stranger to putting himself into controversy. I just want to make that clear right now. Because last year with the Chicago Fire, when I believe it was Pride Night, I believe, at Toyota Stadium. No, that's not their stadium. Is it? That's their stadium.
It was Toyota Stadium now. They're
Yeah.
playing at Soldier, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
Toyota.
okay. I forget that, but yeah, he refused to wear rainbow numbers in support of the LGBTQ community, which I don't know. I think that's stupid. I think he should have just gone with it and like whatever. But again, people are raised in different cultures. There's nothing we can do about it except for educate them about it. And I think at this point, when you have a player who's made a controversial statement in the past, and then somebody, or I guess his wife, just like releasing a statement that was pretty much I'd say it was worse. I think at that point it's okay to say, yeah, we're done with this, and then just send him on his way. I think that's completely reasonable. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I will say this. I think everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say that his opinion. I don't agree at all with Katai's opinion.
hmm
I will say that I think
Katai loses that sort of. He doesn't have the privacy of not being a professional athlete. So people are going to look up to him. People are going to see what he's doing. People are going to see him in the spotlight and see what he does. And he cannot afford to do these things, to not wear a pride number and to have his wife make these comments. Because at the end of the day, he's in the public spotlight whether he likes it or not, and everything he does is going to be infinitely scrutinized. If it is, I don't want to say out of the ordinary, but if it's like, I guess just kind of if it's wrong.
hmm
It's I was watching like The Last Dance a couple weeks ago, and Michael Jordan didn't endorse a candidate for I think it was the North Carolina Senate, who was he was going to take the seat. He was going up against the incumbent, who is a very racist man and everything like that. He's very racist. He's problematic. But Jordan said in his documentary that he said, like, I'm an athlete. Look, like, I'm here to play the game, and so like I can't, I don't have these opinions. And it's like, whether he likes it or not, he's got people's eyes on him at all times. And I think it's the same thing here with Katai. Like, people are going to be watching him and seeing what he does all the time.
Yeah.
And so doing these things, it's going to end badly for him, and it did. And I think the Galaxy made the correct move 100%.
hmm
Because, like you said, he's been problematic in the past, and also, if you're married to like a bigot, like he is, you kind of got to think that his ideologies match up with hers, and not so much what you want your club's ideologies to be.
hmm
For me, this one was difficult for me, because I believe I think there's two very important elements to this. I believe that the education of people is very important. So I think in this society, a lot of times we're very quick to call people out, but we're not very quick to call people in. Secondly, I believe that his actions are not fully indicative of what his wife does. That being said, one of the things that I think that was the most overlooked within the Galaxy statement is that this was a mutually agreed upon departure, which tells me that to at least some extent he was standing up for what his wife said, and that he wasn't willing to condemn her actions, which I think says all that needs to be said in this situation.
Yeah.
I think if he had gone online and he had appropriately responded, or if in the meeting with the LA Galaxy he probably said something along the lines like, look, I don't agree with this, can you help me fix this problem? I'm willing to bet that the LA Galaxy would have done that. I think a lot of people are saying, well, why didn't they, since it's his wife, it's not really him. If you look beyond this, the LA Galaxy called a meeting. They didn't directly fire him. So something was said in that meeting, probably by Katai, and he didn't make a change that needed to happen. And probably at the end of the day, the LA Galaxy made a very good move here.
100%. I think, especially in a time like this in America, there is just absolutely no room for this kind of thing. To be promoting violence, whether it's against protesters or counter-protesters or just anybody in general, there's just no room for it, especially at a time of unrest like this. And I think that the Galaxy are probably making the right move. No, they are making the right move.
No, I was going to say, I shouldn't have said probably. The Galaxy made the right move.
They
Let
made
me
the right move.
clarify that.
100%.
Yeah, I think that their hand was forced almost, because they can't. I think that it would have been poor for them to come out and release a statement and just say, like, we recognize that these actions were false. He'll take a pay cut. That's about it. Because I think that might have been fine 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that in today's climate, and I think as a whole, our generation is becoming more and more inclusive and more recognizing of the privilege that some people have and of the fight that other people have to do every day. That I don't think that this fly. I think that this is the first step in a long. I think that we'll see this again. Is what I'm trying to say.
there's a lot of players that just in MLS in general are, we have a lot of international players, and in other countries and even in America still in certain regions there are a lot of just teachings that are outdated, I think is the correct way to put it. They're outdated and they're just not inclusive, which is just not something that flies in 2020. And I think that, like you said, we're going to see it again.
Yeah.
100%. So, yeah. But as these protests do go on, I'm interested to see exactly how players respond. We've been seeing a lot of good statements, I think, and I kind of want to transition a little bit. We're still on the same subject, but I do want to transition into just a lot of the players and some of the things that they've been saying. Now on Instagram, I know most of the players have kind of been saying pretty much the same thing. I'm pretty sure they've, and this is nothing against them. I think it shows a message of unity. They've been using the same like post caption, which it shows unification. So I'm not going to knock on them for that, as some people might. But we have players. We even have players like Michael Bradley, who is everyone's least favorite player, coming out with a banger of a statement. And he just says, look, I'm white, and I'm going to speak for all white people when I say that white people need to do more to combat the injustice and the racial tension in our system. I think that is a wonderful statement from Michael Bradley, and I would have never thought in 1,000 years I would have been praising Michael Bradley for anything, but here we are, and 2020 just seems to keep on giving for us. Yeah, I think that was a big one.
Didn't he say we had the wrong president in the office to deal with a time like this?
Yes, he did.
He can stay in the team, bro. He can stay in the team until 2040.
I'm okay with, he can be our captain, honestly. I'm okay with it.
He can lift the trophy when we win it on home soil. Like, I'm good with that.
Yeah, but we've had a lot of players making really powerful statements. One of them to me was Kai Kamara, who just kind of talks about, like, he's from Sierra Leone all the way over in Africa, and he just talks about how he comes to America and he's just horribly racially abused just almost all the time. But the main thing he talks about in his interview is he just wants a good future for his kids. And that was one of the powerful ones to me. But to me, the biggest one that came out of all of this, and I think you guys know which one I'm about to talk about, a couple of days ago, Peter Vermees, in an interview with, I believe it was Ali Trost, said that if any of his players had any trouble with racial abuse on or off the field, that they need to come straight to him. Which...
That's my manager.
That is my manager right there. That is my leader. That is my king. I want him leading the charge every freaking game, dude. He is just the best.
Yeah.
I think, really, to release a statement like that right now is just the perfect show of leadership. Not just on the field, but especially off the field right now. In fact, I just want to... Okay, so... I told my guys, if you do face racism, I don't want you to go to somebody else. I want you to come straight to me because I will deal with it. I'm not afraid to deal with the situation. I think that last bit is probably the best, is that Peter Vermees is saying he's not afraid to deal with this. There are a lot of Americans right now that would say that they're afraid to talk about this subject because they think it's too touchy or whatever. Peter Vermees is making a big statement by saying that he's not afraid to deal with something like this. But...
And what a way to, like, rally the players behind you,
Exactly, 100%.
Like, I don't think that's why he did it, obviously. I think Peter Vermees did it just because he's a genuinely good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he would say it if he was the manager of Best Buy, I feel like he'd do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that might be the best run Best Buy in the nation, by the way.
Yeah.
Fact.
But he'd make the employees run suicides every morning. But besides that, I just think, like, what a way to make it so your players know that you have their backs 100 times out of 100, because I feel like maybe sometimes there's this sort of separation. Maybe players, like, sometimes they don't agree with their managers, they don't agree with how they're playing. But when you just making it so that your players know that you are going to be there for them 100 times out of 100 is just such a relief. I think for all of the players at Sporting.
Yeah, 100%. I think that at the moment we need more statements like this. I think that a lot of the time it's just like, you know, the generic "we stand with you," which it's a good statement to make. It's definitely good to know who's standing with you and who's staying silent, or who's just not, or who's just, you know, not supporting the cause in general.
Yeah,
I think Peter Vermes has put himself just above all else as just an amazing example of leadership in this time, honestly.
And honestly, for me, what that statement showed was, I think some of what's been lacking, and some that I've talked about with some people here in this town and some of my friends elsewhere, is MLS really likes to make this statement about themselves, about how they want to be this proactive league and how they want to, you know, be kind of progressive in this thinking. And to me, that was the progressive statement that we have missed from a lot of the MLS leaders this week. And so it's very encouraging to see that.
Yeah. I guess there was another one actually. CJ Sapong, which my goat, love that guy so much. But I think one of his big things is he wants to see words turn to action, and I think that's a big thing. Just in this whole movement in general, is I think I can speak for a lot of us when I say I'm tired of hearing words about all this. I'm tired of hearing mayors and leaders just say, yeah, change is coming. Okay, show us that change is coming. Show us somehow, some way that change is coming. And CJ Sapong, he has put that like at the forefront of what he wants to see in the league. I can't quite remember the article because I don't have it pulled up and I couldn't find it while I was typing there, but he said something about how MLS as a league needs to address racism in the front office.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try and find that article, but
no, I do know what you're talking about, yeah. And I think this was a conversation that was brought up after MLS released their statement, because I think it was something like 7% of coaches in U.S. soccer as a whole are black.
Yeah,
that's crazy. You know, like what does that say? Because imagine you're like a young black kid and you want to go into coaching. Where are you going to find this role model? This person who has the same or similar story to you? Because I feel like that's so important growing up, being able to find an adult that you relate to that has the same story as you, someone that you can, I don't want to say copy, but you have like this guideline of what to do and how to get to where you want to be. There's just that separation in MLS that we don't see. Like, we just don't see this action that MLS is currently saying that they will create. I feel like that would be a good place to start by, like Sapong said, is hiring more people of color so that we're able to see just how much just how like capable they are of doing, of like just how capable MLS are of calling upon their actions and keeping their promises, and to motivate the younger generation as well.
Yeah. I'm sorry, while we were just talking about that, I found like the full MLS article on Vermes' statement, and just what he said in general. And I think, again, Vermes the GOAT for saying this, but he just says that the big problem in general, and I'm quoting Peter Vermes here, is that he is very disgusted by the lack of education on this matter. And I think that is a big issue right now, honestly. I just wanted to use that as like a talking point.
Yeah.
I guess I've seen this myself. I think that there's a lot of people that just are not educated on this matter and for whatever reason just refuse to educate themselves. And it's like, yeah, I would get that maybe like 10, maybe even 5 years ago when all of this was like sort of coming to the surface with the start of social media. But I think about now, you need to have educated yourself on this matter. And there are a lot of people that have. I know that we have, of course, we all have. And I think that pretty much anybody that has used social media has the capability of educating themselves on this matter. So I think at some point you have to question your own ignorance on the matter, I guess, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's just my main opinion on it. Is I think that education on these issues is extremely valuable at this point.
For me, this has to start in our public schools. Joss and I went to the same public school, and I love our public school that we went to. That being said, you made this comment earlier. As far as we were made aware, racism stopped as soon as the civil rights movement was over.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end of the story. Nothing more was said about it. And so I agree with you, Jules, that we have a responsibility to educate ourselves, but we also have to realize that there's people that are not going to take that initiative. So our leaders in our education system have to realize that we as a society and we as teachers and we as community members need to take that initiative and make that a part of our schooling.
I would agree on that 100%.
Yeah, we just aren't taught. Like we're always like, oh, and then Martin Luther King Jr. didn't sit on the bus, and then everyone got right. That's not what happened.
It's honestly,
yeah.
It's
I mean, you're not wrong.
persistent for like over 200 days. That's how long the bus boycott went. But we don't know that. We never knew that. I just found that out. And like people rioted after he was assassinated.
I never learned.
And then
that.
the Civil Rights Act was passed.
I never learned about any of that ever. Not even
exactly. You don't hear about it because it paints...
Not even in my junior year in advanced placement U.S. history did I learn about any of that.
Yeah.
And I also like another thing. I think a big part is just throughout our history in general, we are taught about glorifying these heroes in U.S. history. I think at some point it's okay to acknowledge the good that perhaps maybe not so great people have done, but at the same time you have to acknowledge these people were not heroes. I think the big one I learned about, and I think a big thing that I learned about afterwards that didn't happen or that was never taught to me in APUSH was oh my goodness, and see, I don't even remember because it was the riots in 1920 or something like that in Oklahoma.
Oh, the Tulsa race.
That one. You see, again, it's like we were never taught about that. I never learned about that until I did my own research and watched a couple of videos on it. And it's like, at what point do we acknowledge that America has committed mass atrocities, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, I think, again, this is a non-political issue to me at this point.
It's a human rights issue.
Exactly. And for whatever reason, if you believe that talking about human rights is a sensitive subject, then I think you need to just get with the conversation and educate yourself at this point.
Yeah. And I think another narrative that needs to be pushed is that at times we are going to be uncomfortable, but we have to be comfortable. We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's something that's not being pushed either. And again,
nice literary device.
Oh,
I forget what that's called, but you killed that, bro.
Thanks.
Is it called renaming, rewording? I don't even. That was good.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. But I mean, I mean, again, I think a lot of this does come to, as a society, we really have to be calling in. I believe this does start with our education, so we have to be calling in these students instead of calling them out.
I think that is a great way of putting it.
Be open to embracing the fact that some people just aren't as educated on a topic, and not faulting them for it, but instead looking to educate them and hopefully change their mind on it. I think because I feel like it goes back to the old argument, like, is racism taught or is it learned? You know, or what is it? Racism is learned. Yeah, is that right? Yeah.
Is racism
And-
natural or is it taught?
Yeah.
it's
something
like
like that.
something.
It's like, is it humans are naturally evil? You know, it's that argument.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you have to try your best to change the minds in a nice positive way, so as life gets better for everyone. I feel like one of my favorite quotes right now is like, I don't know how to teach you, but you have to care for one another. And I think that applies right now.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to this police brutality, it won't affect me, okay? It won't affect Jacob. But it's not us. Like, we aren't the ones that are in danger. Like, we aren't the ones that aren't in danger. But we can use that to our advantage, to the advantage of the less fortunate, not less fortunate, of the, I don't know, the
Those that have been
targeted.
done wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think that's important for everyone to know, is that we just have to care for one another right now.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good way of putting it.
And I will say that my favorite statement from an MLS club, I think, was probably Montreal's, where they put no to racism in like 10 different languages.
That
That's
one was
class.
good. That is class. That is very good.
Good work, Montreal.
Yeah. I guess we don't really have much more to talk about. Now that we've gone through those, I guess we could brush on the Bundesliga real quick. I didn't watch much of it, but Giovanni
Josh
Reyna.
Sargent, good.
There we go. That's it. Thank you guys for watching. No, I saw Giovanni Reyna play like 30 minutes or something. He was average, and Tyler Adams was average for Leipzig. That's all I remember. But yeah.
I had a whole, like, we didn't record last week, but man, I watched the Werder Schalke game, bro, and I had like a whole tactical in-depth analysis on Sargent and McKennie. I had to throw it all away.
Why don't you write an article about it, bro?
It's not the same.
It isn't.
Bro, dude, the streets will have forgotten because you never wrote it, bro.
But I think that I've been thinking about writing a couple things, mostly about MLS's Orlando plan and why we can't do it the way that the Premier League or the Bundesliga have done it, as well as just the racism statements. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with my online class or whatever. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that we're about at like 58 minutes. I think this is a good place to stop for this week. Yeah, thank you guys for watching or listening once again. If you do enjoy the podcast, please make sure to give us a big old thumbs up and subscribe. Make sure to follow us over on Twitter, just to see what we're up to. We're always up to something over there. But
what's the at?
I actually forgot I was about to fucking go this track.
Designated pod.
At designated cast, actually get checkmated.
Designated cast.
Jacob Mudded.
Oh my god.
I'm
Anyways,
straight grounded right now.
Jacob's finito, bro.
anyways, thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see you guys on the next pod. Peace out.
Peace.